The Pact of Freedom, a journey to the Promised Land. In July of 1852, almost 2 years since the Compromise of 1850, Mildred Millie Crabtree is the friendly daughter of the mean-spirited plantation owner, Master Wade Crabtree. Having opposing views on slavery, and seeing it as a sin against God, she dreams of leaving the horrors of the South and becoming a children's literature author in the North. During her 18th birthday, she encounters Noah Shepherd, a vibrant, red-haired violinist who plays classical music during the celebration with 2 other musicians. Her mama, Mrs. Charlotte, dies suddenly at the party. Now she's forced against her will to fulfill her mother's role as Mrs. in Crabtree Mansion and sever ties with her closest friend Pearl, a mulatto house slave. Conditions worsen when she learns her papa is in debt, plans to sell some of his slaves, and has exchanged her into an arranged marriage to the young, arrogant Chauncey McMillan, the wealthiest plantation owner in town. But after discovering Noah and his musical comrades are secretly abolitionists, things look up, and Millie and her slave friends embark on a risky, adventurous chance of a lifetime. Chapter 11. Escaping the Hunters. The barks of angry dogs in the forest awoke me from my sleep, and dread plunged into my gut. I raised my head from resting on my crossed arms and gasped, feeling a strong sense of alarm throughout my body. Bounty hunters. It was time to move again. The others were still asleep shoulder to shoulder against the hard trunks of oak trees. Noah yawned and awakened, adjusting his hat. "We have to run," I said, jumping to my feet. "Bounty hunters are coming." "I know." Noah rubbed the tiredness from his face. "Everyone wake up." Turning toward Pearl, I nudged her shoulder. "Wake up, Pearl. We're running again." "Huh?" Pearl fluttered her hazel eyes at the dampened sunlight. "We have to run. Come on." Grabbing her arm, I helped her from the ground to her feet. Margaret, Anna, and Joseph likewise awoke. We ran further into the forest as the hunters, with their bloodhounds, trailed behind our path. Mumbling voices of men drew closer as they and the dogs rattled through the underbrush. "Follow me, son. We're going to catch us some stray niggers," one of them said. Noah stayed last in line and allowed everyone else to run ahead of him. Leaning against a tree trunk, I glanced back out of concern and paused a second, catching my breath. Using his clever wisdom, Noah took a small jar of cayenne pepper from his jacket pocket and sprinkled some in different spots, mixing it with the dirt and dried leaves so the dogs would lose our scents. "Don't wait for me. Keep running," he urged in a whisper. I continued following the others as Noah trotted behind me. We ran until we reached the end of the forest and came to the rocky creek. Large brown and black rocks formed the path to the other side of the dry grassland, but getting across them would be a challenge. As Noah warned in the cabin, the water was deep and reached our waists. I took off my shoes and socks so not to get them wet, as did the other women, and put them in my carpet bag. But Joseph was the only one who kept his shoes on. Caring more about his freedom, he leaped like a toad from one stone to the other, leaving the women to fend for themselves. But I didn't blame him. Our lives were threatened, and we couldn't afford to lag behind. Along the way, I slipped and missed a step, splashing into the gargling flow of water, a shock from its coldness injected through my system. Pearl looked wide-eyed at me from a short distance. "Millie, are you all right?" "Yes," I answered, and climbed to the surface of a rock. "Just keep running." He did as I asked and jumped from the last stone, joining the others to the grassland. I checked behind and saw Noah not far away, gaining up on me. "Everything fine, Miss Millie?" he asked. I nodded and continued going across the rocks, holding my wet bag. Apparently, I should have done the same as Joseph, but I was a young lady of a wealthy family and accustomed to what seemed proper in my eyes. After I made it to the grassland with the others, I squeezed the excess water from the skirt of my dress. Looking down, I discovered I had skinned my left knee. I wrung out one of my soaked stockings and tied it over my knee to stop the bleeding. Then I slipped my boots back on again. "I think we're safe now," Noah said, when he reached the grass with us. "The bounty hunters must have been looking for someone else who ran off." A gunshot fired in the distance behind us. For a long moment, there was dead silence. Nobody spoke as we listened to the babbling creek. Maybe we survived, but that fast. Somehow we knew someone, possibly a runaway slave, had died. Noah wore a pensive face and bowed and shook his head, lost in words. He inhaled a slow, long breath, then squared his shoulders, looking straight ahead. "We must keep moving." His words were forced, knowing there was nothing he could do to help a dead slave. Everyone else followed him, but I was stuck in a speechless daze. After running from the hunters and the vicious hounds, a flood of emotions washed over me as I realized an alarming epiphany: the fear and despair my fellow friends experience every day of their lives. How it felt to be a slave. Slavery was a plight difficult to handle for anyone, and despite their hard labor to prosper the economy, slaves' lives held little value compared to the rest of society, to be taken so ruthlessly. Noah walked through the tall blades of grass toward me. With compassion in his brown, moist eyes, he spoke in a gentle voice of heartfelt concern. "You don't have to continue if you don't want to, Millie. I'll understand." I wiped my runny nose with my trembling hand. "No, I want to go on. I have to keep moving." "All right," Noah said. "We're going to the meadow. Everyone be careful and look out for rattlesnakes." Rattlesnakes. I wasn't prepared for those long critters, but I willed back my tears and drew a brave inhale, following him and the others. For several minutes we traveled uphill, as the dirt trail between the forest grassland became steeper to walk on. Then we passed a rocky waterfall in the forest and stepped across a meadow of grassy undergrowth flowing with a long, leafy stream. The cool breeze was refreshing and relieved some of the humidity from the heat and the sun flickering in my face. Thankfully, we saw no rattlesnakes, but we came upon a few purple flower plants that I thought were beautiful. I started to pick one off, but after Noah said they were poisonous, I backed away. For 2 days we stopped and traveled through the steep grassland and the meadow until we finally reached the prairie fields, seeking refuge 2 nights in a row in the woods. I didn't expect it to take so long, but as Noah said, the journey north was long and tiresome. Once we reached the prairie for hours on end, we journeyed through a field of dried straw-like grass like golden hay. The rough, bristly texture brushing against my raw, damp skin, and the invisible sting of buzzing mosquitoes made me itch. I stopped from time to time and slapped and scratched my legs. For several acres we saw nothing except a couple of pine trees. At first I thought we were going in the wrong direction, but Noah was the leader, so I reckoned he knew better than me. He paused and scanned the open field, blocking the sunlight from his face. "We'll wait here." "Oh, thank the Lord!" Anna exclaimed. I chuckled and plopped on the ground with the others, all of us hiding in the middle of the wide yellow field. Taking a rest stop, I took advantage of the time and slipped on a new pair of socks and replaced my shoes. Margaret opened her bundle she carried with her and offered everyone food. "Have something," she said, smiling and holding open the checkered cloth. 2 biscuits and 3 apples were left. Thanks, Mars. I smiled and grabbed an apple. Biting into the crisp sweet fruit, my stomach rumbled and growled. It was the first decent thing I'd eaten this morning. Seeing everyone eating one or the other, the apples and biscuits Margaret brought along wouldn't last us much longer. I hoped we'd make it to Canada without dying of starvation. Some minutes later, hoofbeats and squeaking wheels of a wagon came toward us up the dusty trail. I crawled over and peeked from behind the straw weeds, squinting at the sun and clouds of dust kicked up by the wagon. A fat man wearing a wide-brimmed hat and farmer clothes held the reins. Something about him seemed familiar, and the closer he got, I recalled where I'd seen him. "Whoa, boy," he said in a deep and mellow voice, coming to a halt. "Everyone, this is Hubert Duncan. You can trust him," Noah said, gesturing a hand. "He's come to take you to the first safe house over the hill." "You're—" I blinked in disbelief and hung open my mouth. "Yes," Noah said. "The cellist from your birthday party. We were all undercover, Millie." The fat man's plump, rosy cheeks rose, grinning at the group of us. "Everyone hurry under the sheet before someone sees you. Hurry now!" Pearl and the others scrambled into the wagon filled with sackcloth bags of potatoes. They hid under the cream-colored sheet, while I joined the driver on the front seat. "Aren't you coming?" asked Noah, concerned. He shook his head. "No. I'll meet you at the train station in Louisville, Kentucky. You're the guardian for now, Millie, but the station masters will assist you. Be careful, and look out for your friends." "I promise I'll do my best," I said. "Godspeed," Noah told Hubert. Hubert tipped his hat. "Same to you, Shepherd." He struck his reins and drove off, taking us to the nearest safe house for the night. Looking back at Noah as he waved and faded in the summer haze, I felt a great sense of responsibility for the task laid out before me, being a conductor. And that's the end of Chapter 11 in my novel, The Pact of Freedom. If you're interested in getting a copy of The Pact of Freedom, I'll have the link below. I would appreciate if you give some reviews, and thank you for listening and watching.